After attending my fair share of metal shows over the past few years, I've accumulated quite a few concert stories, which I may as well start telling here. The first concert story I have to tell is about going to see Black Sabbath in 2013. It was urgent for me to go see them because it was just announced that Tony Iommi was diagnosed with lymphoma, so I figured that if I didn't see them on that tour, I probably wouldn't have a chance to see them ever again. I was 16 at the time, I didn't have my driver's license yet. My grandpa likes Black Sabbath, and he grew up in the 70s when most of those albums came out. So he wanted to see them, I wanted to see them, he drove us there. It was a great experience. The problem was getting there. See, where we were in North Carolina, trying to get to Bristol, Virginia, the state closed off part of the highway. And the traffic was backed up for a good hour, 2 hours, and we were sitting still for a long-ass time. They were slowly moving cars out. They were exiting us off the highway into bumfuck nowhere. From the interstate all the way to country road, and there's all this farmland everywhere, and 2 years later we finally got back onto the main highway and just booked it the rest of the way there. It was nice to see Ozzy and all those guys play, and the stage setup was pretty small, especially for a band like Black Sabbath anyway. But the big memory that I took away from that concert were the women who were trying to flirt with us while we were watching the show. There was a woman to the right of me, and a friend of hers was standing in front of Grandpa. And she was over there trying to talk to us, pass the time between Andrew WK's set and everything. And she was over there leaning over her chair, letting her boobies all hang out and everything, talking about, oh, my husband died back in February, and I'm trying to get back on track with my life and being happy and all this and all that. And to the right of the woman next to me was a dad taking his 17-year-old son to see Black Sabbath. His son had never seen Sabbath before, so good dad for trying to give his kid a good life. Anyway, at some point in the conversation, the woman looked at me, she said, how old are you? 16. She looked at the other kid, said, how old are you? 17. Tell you what, I'll give each of you 25 cents and you can both call me when you're 25. Well, I'm 22 now, so if you feel like making your way to North Carolina, hit me up. My grandpa also took me to my first death metal show. See, he took me to several metal shows, actually, because I didn't have my license yet, and he's one of those guys where he's like, oh yeah, I'll listen to new stuff, I'll try something new, so, cool dude. But, first death metal show I ever been to was, Carcass and Obituary, November 2014. Still one of the best shows I've ever been to. I wanted to experience it all. I met all kinds of cool people there, I got a mosh for the first time ever, and I made it a point that I wanted to stage dive at some point during the Carcass set. I was going around and talking to my mosh buddies saying, hey, I want to be able to say at least once in my life that I stage dived at a Carcass show. They said, oh, it's your first death metal concert and you want to stage dive? You just gained my respect, dude. So sometime during Incarnate Solvent Abuse, I looked at one of the guys who I was telling that to. He eyeballed me, and then he looked at his friend, hey, come lift this guy up for me. So they lifted me up to the stage, and, you know, I threw the horns at Jeff, and I threw the horns at the crowd, and I looked out, stage dive for the first time, and it was awesome. And once the song was over, Jeff Walker, he looked at me, he pointed, he said, ah, yes, it's the young. It's the young who will keep the tradition alive and keep the spirit alive. Whew, I already loved Carcass at that point, but from then on, I owe my dedication to the band. What else was amazing at that show was there was also a wall of death. Now, so far I've only been in a handful of wall of deaths, but my first death metal show, it had it all. It had moshing, it had stage diving, it had Jeff interacting with the audience, it had killer bands, and on top of it all, there was a wall of death. And somebody filmed it and put it on YouTube. So that was totally awesome. It wasn't as painful as I thought it was going to be, but that pit got nuts. In fact, that whole show was awesome. I have nothing but fond memories of it. Because I still talk to people that I met at that show. It was years ago, and it still holds a fond place in my heart. At a Creator and Obituary show on the Decibel Tour of 2017, I got to meet the fine gentlemen of Midnight. See, a former friend of mine, her boyfriend's mom used to play in a band with one of the guys at Midnight. So I walked over to the merch booth after the show, and I introduced myself. I said, hey, his mom used to play in a band with you. Oh yeah, how's he doing, by the way? He's doing pretty good. So we had a nice little conversation for 5 minutes. I told them about my YouTube channel. I told them about different things that were going on in North Carolina, and they were pretty cool. I asked them to autograph the record I bought. They even personalized it. So That's pretty cool. Keep the bottom line coming, is what he says. I saw Suffocation in Greensboro just before Of the Dark Light came out, and earlier that day, I happened to get a picture with Terrence. Very cool dude. Most of the time, when I go to the merch booth, I look for posters because they tend to last more than shirts for me. So, they had one poster. I didn't notice that it was autographed. I asked the guy, I said, "Oh, how much for the poster?" He said, "It's autographed." "Oh, I can't afford it then." "It's only 20 bucks. I said, "20 bucks? Hell yeah!" Bought it right away. The thing was, it was signed by everybody in the band except for Terrence. So he said, "Oh, just wait a little while. Terrence is in the shower right now, so I'm gonna have to hand this to him in a few minutes when he gets out." So I had to wait about 20-30 minutes maybe before I could get that last signature, and it hangs on my wall proudly. I love Suffocation. Around the time Crossover Ministry came out, I went to see Iron Reagan in Greensboro. And I'm guessing that this show was added on at the last minute because that show was not promoted worth a fuck. I found out they were playing there by total accident, and the turnout may have been 90 people at the end of the night. I mean, it was just a really shitty audience turnout. But I wanted to see Iron Reagan, so I showed up 30 minutes before the doors were supposed to open, and while waiting for the doors to open, the band comes out, and they start walking towards their van. And on the way there, Mark gives me a look like he recognized me. And he waves. He's like, gives me the horns. And I'm sitting there thinking, that's cool. He must know me from the internet or something. Anyway, the band came back out 5 minutes later. And Mark walks up to me. He's like, "Wait a minute, you're the guy who did that Tank Crimes video, aren't you?" Hell yeah, dude. So he reminded the rest of the band who I was. They all shook my hand, fist bumped me, everything. That was really awesome. You know, to have a band that I've talked about on my channel recognize me. But throughout the night, of course, I got to talk to them a little bit about things that happened in Greensboro, things that happened with the channel, all sorts of different things. I even got a picture with two of them, so they were really cool dudes. That blew my mind. I sat there thinking, wow, Iron Reagan recognized me. Watain and Destroyer 666 came through Greensboro. It was a show that I wouldn't have minded seeing, but I was on the fence about going. Because I'd gotten back from X-Order, going to travel through New York and New Orleans the month before, and that costs a lot of money, so I've been trying to rebuild my bank account. Anyway, what made me decide to go was the news article that Metal Sucks posted, you know, a pathetic attempt by them to villainize its scene once again, that one of the Watain members was doing the Nazi Sieg Heil, because clearly they're Nazis. Are you kidding me? This whole witch hunt hysteria thing that's going on with Sieg Heils and everything, not everybody who does that are Nazis. I mean, it's a dumb move, yes, but they're doing it because they want the controversy and you're falling for it. I mean, they're shooting themselves in the foot with these black metal Nazi accusations by continuing to do the Sieg Heil, but man, come on, Metal Sucks, stop trying to fuck over your own scene. Because clearly, Antifa, they're over there shutting down their shows and Marduk's shows and everything, so I feel like it's the responsibility of the metal community to keep supporting these bands by continuing to go to the shows, demanding that they play there, and telling them how good of a job they did and how much we wanted them to be there. And that's what I did after the show. It was the best black metal show I ever got to sing. And let's see, I caught a set list from Watain, and I waited by the tour bus after the show to get a picture with Eric. And I'd say he was in a pretty good mood considering the news about Watain came out that same day. So maybe he was madder than hell on the inside, but he was trying not to take it out on anybody else on the outside. But regardless, after that picture, he sat out there and talked to us for a few minutes. He was like, "So what's going on in Greensboro tonight?" I was like, well, the restaurants are all closed for the most part. There are a few after parties going on, and really, I'm hungry and I just want to go home and eat, but, just want to sit out here and talk to you guys for a little while. He was like, "Oh, we're all going to go down the street and shoot some pool all night." Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Imagine sitting in a bar room and you see one of your favorite black metal bands shooting pool, like in a corner. That shit would blow my mind. I should, that would have been cool to follow them, but they probably want to get away from the concert venue at that point and just relax on their own. I met this couple who lived in Virginia Beach, that flew down to Greensboro to see the show. It's a short drive, and they didn't drive because they had shitty beat up cars, and they didn't want to risk anything breaking down or anything on the way. And we were talking as we were walking alongside the tour buses, and we looked at Watain's tour bus, and sure enough, we saw a pig head in a styrofoam cooler. Wow, the things you see every day. They staked those peg heads on top of these giant inverted crosses on the stage, and those fucking things stunk. And the way metal concerts are, you're surrounded by people who, a lot of them probably haven't showered all day, some of them probably just got off of work, and of course, you know, you're going to be in around a mosh pit where people are sweating like crazy, so sometimes it smells bad in there anyway, but once they staked those peg heads on top of the crosses, man, that made me fucking gag. Cannibal Corpse and Power Trip came to Greensboro once, and the Cannibal Corpse guys, they're known to hang around the tour buses after shows, because that's one of the things that they're known for. That's what they do. They love their fan base, they're good to them. Anyway, George Fisher was the last person to come out, and it was getting late, the guys wanted to go out to eat, but George, he had a cold, so he was staying in the tour bus most of the night, but before the tour bus could leave, he came out, and he talked to the driver. He was like, "Oh, we'll go out to eat. Let me take care of these guys first." And we all got in line to get autographs and pictures with George Fisher. It was just really cool to see that George put the fans at first before he went out to eat. And what was really cool was when Paul came out, he had nothing else to do. He just sat out and talked to us for a good 20-30 minutes about anything. You know, there was a group of my friends there that we just asked him random questions and talked to him about the new album, different eras of the band, and he was really enthusiastic about it, and he was nice about it, and he was cool. It was like he had nothing else on his mind that he wanted to do aside from talk to us. So, needless to say, that band has definitely gained more of my respect after that show. Exodus and Obituary came to Durham at the Motorco Music Hall, and that was an awesome night. Obituary was great as always. Exodus was a fantastic live band. I got a picture with Steve Souza, and I got a set list, so it was really awesome. See, I was going with a group of friends, and I kind of separated from them during the Obituary set. And after Obituary got off the stage, I got to talk to one friend of mine. He started talking to me. He was like, "Man, you won't believe what just happened." "What just happened?" And I just got fucking pissed on. "What?" "Yeah, man, I felt during the Obituary set, I felt a wet spot on my leg, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought the roof was leaking. Then I looked again, I felt it again, and the guy had his pee-pee out, and he was peeing on me. I said, 'That's disgusting!' Ugh, man, that's fucked up." I mean, here's the thing. He probably did it because he didn't want to lose his good place, but come on, man. When you're at a small venue like that, you can usually work your way back up to the front. Now, if you're at a place like Ozfest and you're in front row, if you move from the front row at Ozfest, you're not going to get back up front. That's just not going to happen. So if you got to use the bathroom, you got to piss yourself, but like, come on, man, at an Obituary show, in a place that may have held like 1,000 people, come on, man. It's like, it wasn't funny when it happened, it's funny as hell now. Well, that is where I would like to end this collection of stories. There are plenty more to be told in future episodes, but for now, grind on.